how long it takes. You can put dry molasses or you can put a whole lot of liquid molasses on nutsedge, and we've discovered that nutsedge grows in anaerobic areas. It grows where there's too much moisture in the soil and there's not enough aerobic activity of microbes. There's not enough air. Well, the molasses helps to correct that. In some cases you can correct the drainage, and the nutsedge just kind of slowly goes away. It's a pretty neat deal, and it really does work.
What else can you use? The fatty acids are coming along now. They're going to be bigger than ever.
I'd like to say something on nutgrass. The biggest, most beautiful cornfield I've ever seen was at my wife's grandpa's place. That corn was growing in nutgrass. I mean, thick nutgrass. And when I saw that, my jaw dropped. And I asked one of the uncles, I said, how can you grow corn in nutgrass this thick? He said, oh, that's what keeps the soil rich.
Does everybody remember the movie Young Frankenstein or whatever it was, where the guy says something to Igor about the hump, and he says, what hump? You know, when somebody looks around your yard and comments about the weeds, say, what weeds? Those are wildflowers. You know, don't get so bent out of shape about weeds, and I know Howard's talked about this a great deal. Where is it written that we have to have a monoculture? Where is it written that your yard cannot have anything except one type of grass in it? The person who wrote that rule sold herbicides. You know, that's all I can say. I still think the best weed killer out there is your lawnmower. And I always say with weed control, the best defense is a good offense. If you've got healthy turf grass, or healthy ground cover, or healthy just about anything else, it'll choke the weeds out. Look at weeds as a sign that there's something wrong with your gardening system. Maybe you need more Medina Plus, maybe you need more compost, maybe you need more molasses, maybe you need more, you know, proper kind of fertilizer. But weeds in and of themselves are not anything that I think anyone should panic over. Yes?
You meant to say your electric lawnmower. Or your push mower.
Well, my four-legged lawnmowers. They walk around and, you know, do a very even job of...
and a great way to get rid of poison ivy. Reticles. Yeah.
I just want to add, I don't have a grass or a wheat problem because I have too many ducks and geese. They solve the problem.
And that leads, I'm sorry, go ahead if you want.
And so another way to manage this is to get rid of one of the most prevalent invasive species out there. That's the St. Augustine lawn. It came from Africa and the Mediterranean area. We talk about invasive species. That's one of the biggest ones.
I like St. Augustine.
Yeah, it doesn't have triggers in it though, and that's one thing I like about St. Augustine. But just a tiny little patch of it. Somebody wanted to know about getting rid of grasshoppers, and what Bruce said just really struck a chord there. I think the best way you can get grasshoppers out of your vegetable garden, at least, or your yard, is put out a bird feeder. I mean, the birds come along, or if you're out in the country, get some guineas. There are some baits out there, some biologically based baits that have a bacteria called Nosema locustri in there that I think will control grasshoppers pretty well. But I think if you've got a lot of birds coming into your garden, you will have very few grasshoppers. And much as I really don't care for grackles, I remember a few years ago when I was out on my electric tractor. No, I'm sorry, I don't have one of those. But I was shredding a field, and in the field adjacent to me, this whole huge flock of grackles came in and landed in the field. And I was driving along, pulling that shredder, and I was doing this to keep the grasshoppers out of my face. They were so thick. They were clogging up the radiator, the screen on the front of the radiator. And I finished what I was doing. I went over to the field where the flock of grackles had moved on. There weren't any grasshoppers there. So I'm a big fan of, you know, some natural control on grasshoppers. How about you guys? How do you get rid of grasshoppers?
Well, again, I really do have more birds than I should have. There are certain geese that you can use around plants that won't mess with them. There are certain guineas don't dig around near as much as chickens. They're much safer in your gardens. I met a guy that was up in Pennsylvania when I was up there. What he did is run a 6-foot run around his garden with separate fencing and let the chickens live in the area right adjacent around his garden. They couldn't get to his plants exactly, but it was like this magic barrier. I guess a few grasshoppers might have jumped in, that, boy, he sure eliminated the majority that have a problem with it, and incidentally got to eat the chickens.
Pass it down, see if anybody else has a grasshopper answer.
Well, some of the gardens are small and difficult to do some of these big projects in. And I have a friend with a cottage garden. You know, those are generally kind of small, nice gardens. And but she has the grasshopper problem. So what she did was she took a butterfly net and periodically she just sweeps through the flowers in the garden. She has a 5-gallon bucket with some soapy water in it. Once the net is kind of full of grasshoppers, she'll dump it into the soapy water and periodically just sweep the garden with that butterfly net. And she does a very good job and has minimized the problem to a tolerable level.
We got a bunch of big pecan trees around our place, about 60 of them, and the grackles love them. I think they all came from the San Antonio River, Tom. And I was chasing those things off and shooting at them and everything else, and then I noticed one day they was out in the garden chasing grasshoppers. And pretty soon the grasshoppers disappeared, and I ain't seen a grasshopper in a long time. So instead of chasing the grackles, when they would whistle, I'd whistle back at them. And they started listening for me now. And believe it or not, they don't mess on our vehicles anymore. Since I start talking to them and leaving them alone, my brother-in-law came up and parked his vehicle close to ours, and he had to wash it before he could go home. And no grackle mess on any of our vehicles.
I might mention that Malcolm is the oldest member of this group, and some of his stories. You want to add anything?
For grasshoppers, no bare soil. The females need bare soil to lay the eggs, put the eggs in the ground, get the young going. Beneficial nematodes will help you. Just good biological activity will help you. If they come in from other people's property, which they're going to do, kale and clay is something you ought to try, especially if you have crops. Kale and clay you mix with water and a little soap. It's the same clay that potters use, and you spray it on the plants. And there's university research behind this, and there's an EPA product if you want it. It's called Surround, WP for wettable powder. But you can just buy generic kale and clay and use it. It sets up a particle film on the plants that repels the grasshoppers, and it works very well. If they come in big enough, droves, you've got to kill them with something, and you use the Eco-Exempt, the diatomaceous earth, orange oil-based products, something like that to knock them back, and then these other products will help.
Very good. Going to change gears here a little bit, then we're going to come back and just go bang, bang, bang through a few of these. But one person, it's here somewhere. And the basic question is, what are some things you can do? Another person wanted to know what is the single most important thing you can do to, in effect, go greener in your own home, in your own landscape. And who wants to start? Did you want to start that, Howard?
Just do everything we've been talking about today. Anytime you choose a product to go out on your lawn or your garden or your vegetables or whatever, think about this. If I use this, will it help or hurt the earthworms? And that's really the only thing you need to remember. A lot of people will be organic outside and still inside use Clorox and other bleaches and other nasty materials. Stay away from those. That's a very easy way to make a big change in a hurry. If you use these soaps that say they have built-in bactericides, stay away from them, stop buying them. Orange oil will do the same thing. Bruce was talking about this the other day, and I'll let him elaborate on it, but a lot of times vinegar and just some real simple things like hydrogen peroxide are better cleaners and disinfectants anyway, so you don't need the toxic product.
Orange oil.
Orange oil is just great inside this clean, yeah.
It's one of the most important things. Another thing I tell everybody to do, you as consumers have a great deal of power by what you buy and where you buy it. Deal with people that sell ecologically friendly green products, and don't just look at what's inside the package. Look at the packaging. If some company is doing this huge, elaborate, 4-color, 17 sheets of cardboard and 14 instructional pamphlets and everything else to sell you 2 ounces of something, you don't need that. Buy it in the simplest packaging you can find. One of the biggest wastes in this country is what we use in packaging the products that are sold, just to make them a little bit prettier and hopefully make them a little bit more, I guess that's what they're trying to do, more attractive to the consumer. That goes for garden products as well, guys.
Go ahead.
Well, one of the things that you can do to figure out what to do to go greener is go talk to your parents, your grandparents, because that's the way it used to be.